Hi, it's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and I just want to do a follow-up video to crap number 19, where I talked about how to print your own unique art designs onto fabric using your inkjet printer. I've done some more experimenting, and I wasn't very happy with the fact that I'm using different solutions, like mediums, on my muslin cloth. The one that worked the best was, of course, the digital grounds, either the matte white or the non-porous. But I did a search on the internet, and that is no longer being manufactured by the Golden Company that made it. And I can't find any other product that will work the same with that. So I did some more research on the internet, and I had known about this, and I think I tried it once, and I think I did it wrong when I tried it the first time. But basically it's using freezer paper to bond your material or your fabric too. Now you see, freezer paper basically has a plastic coating on one side. So you lay your muslin material down onto the top of that freezer paper, onto the plastic side, and you lightly press it with a hot iron, and that makes the plastic melt a little bit, and your material, your fabric, sticks to the freezer paper. Then you cut it down to a sheet that's about 8.5 by 11, standard size of a piece of cardstock or printer paper, and put that through your printer, and it works very well. And I will show you here a comparison. This is one that I treated with digital grounds for non-porous materials, and although the fabric is porous, it seemed to work okay, and the color and everything came out pretty good. Not quite as sharp as, let me just grab one here, not quite as sharp as using the digital ground white matte medium, but it still will work very well, I think. But then I took the muslin and I used the freezer paper method. This is this piece right here, and you can see that basically there's not a lot of difference in terms of the intensity of the color. It might be slightly lighter putting it on the freezer paper without any kind of medium on the fabric itself, but still very usable. The other thing I like about this method is that your material remains very soft and pliable. It feels like material. Whereas when you put one of the mediums on it, your paper gets, or your fabric gets, a little stiff and feels more like a canvas material. Now, in terms of waterproofing, however, I did find on another website a suggestion for making inks waterproof, and that was, after you printed the material, was to put it into a white vinegar bath for about 10 minutes, take it out, and let it dry. I don't know what they were thinking, but I'm sure I did it exactly as their instructions said, and the instructions weren't very difficult. Basically, it said pour ordinary white household vinegar into a tray, drop in your material that's been printed, and let it sit there for 10 minutes, take it out, and let it dry. So this is the result that I got. You can see the ink ran. And in my way of thinking, white vinegar is wet, so anything wet coming into contact with something that's water soluble, whether it's water or vinegar, is going to make it run, and it did. And I did, after it was totally dried, and I let this dry overnight, I put it in a sink, filled it with water, put this in, put this around, wrung it out, and more ink came out of it when I did that. And this is the end result after I let it dry and I pressed it again with my iron. So really, I don't know why someone would suggest that white vinegar was going to make something waterproof. Doesn't make a lot of logical sense. The only thing I can think is possibly the person doing this did not realize that the ink in their inkjet printer might have been a type that was a permanent waterproof ink. You can get inks from Epson that are like that. Now, I don't know if I can get them for my particular printer. I have to investigate that because I'm using a printer that actually has the tanks of ink. So I'll have to look and see if there is one that's permanent. If there is, that would solve a lot of my problems in terms of waterproofing. So the the white vinegar is not a solution as far as I'm concerned. But since I can't get the digital grounds anymore, I'm thinking the freezer paper is the best way to go right now. Now I might be able to intensify this color if I adjust the settings on my printer. I printed this at the highest setting, but there are some finer features in my printer where I could probably make this even more intense. For example, I haven't tried it yet, but if I changed the type of paper the printer thinks it has going through it, like if I put it onto photo glossy, that usually gives a much finer spray of ink. That might work very well as well. So I'll have to try that in future. But anyways, this is my follow-up. So now what I recommend is the freezer paper method for printing on your fabric.